call to order here. And if everybody just silence their cell phones and roll call, Georgianne.
Director Dan Hansen.
Present.
Vice President Shelby Austin.
Present.
President Mark Stoller.
Here.
Director Greg Mowers.
Present.
And Director Kellogg is absent.
Okay. Since we have no public here present at the moment, we'll go ahead and go right into
Closed session.
closed session. That's where I was headed.
Did we just, for the record, just read the closed session item?
Oh, yes. Okay. We are going into closed session for 3A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, California Government Code Section 54956.9, Paradise Irrigation District versus Pacific Gas and Electric. Thank you. Our closed session, and direction was given to legal counsel. That's my announcement. So, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. And now we'll go right to our regular board meeting. Dan, if you'll silence your cell phone if you have one. Okay. Let's see. Let me get this out here so I can see what we're doing here. We'll have a call to order, please, Georgianne.
Director Dan Hansen.
Present.
Vice President Shelby Boston.
Present.
President Mark Stoller.
Here.
Director Greg Mowers.
Here.
And Director Bill Kellogg is absent.
Okay, and I just wanted to say before we have the Pledge of Allegiance, I just wanted to wish Director Kellogg best wishes and a swift recovery. So I visited him a week and a half ago, and he was looking pretty good.
Good.
So if you're listening, Bill, we're looking for you to get back here soon. So, and in lieu of an invocation, I thought maybe we would just have a moment of silence. I know there was some, activities a week and a half ago, and there was a observance of a moment of silence. But I just thought we could reflect in our own way on the events that occurred on November 8th a year ago. So let's take a moment. All right, thank you. Now, if we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We have the consent calendar. Approval of the consent calendar.
So the only thing I placed on the board members' desk on the page 2 of the October 16th minutes, President Solik noticed, I guess, I forgot that on the date of the next community information meeting, I put just the 8th instead of the 18th.
Oh.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amendment to the date.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We've got approval of minutes. Are there any discussion from the minutes?
well,
We would have discussed it before we voted on it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
it's been a long day.
Yeah, it has.
So the board just approved the whole consent calendar with the minutes.
So we're
we're past
Now
that.
you're a public participant.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Dan, do you have anything you'd like to speak on that's not on the agenda for tonight?
Don't we have 2C?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here.
It was all part of the consent.
Okay. We'll go right to number 4 then, I guess. We'll...
I thought the date was up in the air.
Go right to number 4.
Okay.
PID staff and facility report.
Sure.
updates.
So I don't know how many were able to watch or to be in the audience for the update on Monday, but Sammy went over an update for them for the recovery process. And right now, I believe we're at about half of the homes have potability letters. And we've tested, I believe, about 58% of the homes, standing homes right now. We have a pretty good number on the meters out there, which is, I believe, 1558 of the total meters that we need to go test, and that is from standing structures, I believe 1501. So there's a difference between meters and standing structures based on that we have standing structures that have like 15 meters associated with those standing structures. A good one is like the Save Mark complex. That's one standing structure that has about 15 meters. Right. And each one of those meters needs to be tested and then given a potability letter. So we have more meters outstanding than we do have standing structures in the town. And things are actually moving right along. We have a deadline of the end of March, to get everybody out there back into potable water. And just a reminder, too, that when people are put back into potable water and they do get a letter, their rate does go up. And so that has been on Facebook. And so we have Action News was here today to get that out to the public for them to understand. But it's also in their letter when they receive it in the mail that their rate will increase. So that's been something we've been dealing with in the office. We continue to install the interim water devices. I know we have over 1,000 installed. I believe the last number I heard, that was a couple days ago, was 1,050, but they're getting about 18 to 20 in a day. The thing is, we're still getting about 8. I think we're on average, we're still receiving 8 a day in the office. So we're cranking through them, but they're also coming in quick. But we've scheduled them all out, and we're 3 weeks ahead of the schedule that we scheduled them on. We have about 100 that are straightforward left to install, and then we have about 170 that have issues. Those issues are either that the service line was extremely damaged to the point where it needs to be replaced, or there needs to be some more construction. And the other one is that we have main lines out there that still don't have water because of the damage to the main lines. And so we have to get out there and actually do mainline replacement and construction to get people back into to water on that standpoint.
I ran into one of the crew members, supervisors for Sutton.
Oh, yes.
He said that there's some real creative stuff out there they're finding.
So Sutton is on board, and they've been great to work with, but there is some interesting stuff. So the first one they went down because we assumed that they were going to go out and pothole. The first one they go down to is a gate valve, which
it's the one you told me.
Yeah, and it's welded on. So it's a welded on gate valve. So it's not just an easy repair and replace. We don't want gate valves out there, and we didn't realize how many gate valves are out there. And so what we have to do is they have to go over about 12 inches. They're going to have to hot tap it and then bring that in. But when you're working on old steel and you're turning that gate valve off, the likelihood of it to start leaking is very high. And so we're just having to deal with it in the field as they come. To take the gate valve off, you actually have to shut the pipe down. So there's no easy way to actually get that gate valve off. So we have to shut the pipe down, go out and cut the gate valve off, and then put a clamp over the gate valve before we can actually plumb in the new service line. So we are finding a lot of interesting things out there, and we're trying to repair them as we go so that we're not leaving any of the garbage left in the ground. But yeah, it's been interesting.
His words were, "You guys inherited a lot of creative plumbing."
Yeah. Well, you think about this. Well, you look at the houses. I mean, you think about the houses above ground. You can only imagine the underground and how creative they were with the underground. And so there's a lot of issues. We have a lot of requests for people moving meters that we're taking on an individual basis. We can't accomplish them all, but we're trying to work within the confines of the space and what we can do. So we're working that through. And Sutton has a pretty good clip going on replacements. So we have 180 in the pipeline for priority. That means that they have either pull a building permit for a manufactured home, or they've gotten a slab inspection for a stick-built house. So those are our two criteria to be prioritized on our list that we're getting from the town, and that's about 180. We think we can accomplish all of the priorities by the end of the year.
So I have a question. So when Sutton's going out and they're doing the installations and repairs, are they moving the meters automatically when they're not adhering to what was in the plan, where with accommodating for the curb and?
So what we're doing is our crews are actually going, from a meter standpoint, our crews are going out and marking beforehand. So our crews are going out and looking at the space. They're taking the customer's request and seeing if we can accommodate it. Or if we feel it's better for the meter to be moved, period, then we're marking that ourselves. So Sutton has a direct line of where they're going. If they pothole down and it looks like they've run into an issue and they're going to have to tap somewhere else, with the material they're using, it's real easy to still hit that target. So it doesn't have to be like a straight line. They can make things like this all around. And so we're the ones that are actually marking it, and then we're marking it not only on the property, but we're marking it out in the street, so that if a customer said, no, I wanted it over here, and take our mark and move it, we know that that's not where it's supposed to be. So there's two markings.
I just worry there's some, like when you drive through town now, especially they're so visible with the backflow devices on, that there's some like right on the corner where people stop and then you just know they're going to get nailed and
That's what I was
ripped
talking
out.
about the other night.
Right.
We discussed it. Some of them, you just narrow roads and somebody's going to back out of their driveway and take
Yeah,
one
so
out.
we're taking in that into consideration on every single one. We're uniquely identifying where the best place for it is, and those backflows of where they're at currently, they will be set another foot in front, because you'll have a meter set in front of that. So there will be a little bit of pushed off of the road, but not a ton. And there's a lot of them, like in driveways and different things like that, that we'll want to set somewhere else. And we're working through those different issues. So it's definitely an ebb and flow of what we've discovered and what we're finding in there. But Sutton's been a great partner so far, and I don't see any hiccups on anything going forward. They come from Angel Camp, which is topography is very similar, and I think they have very similar infrastructure. And so they've done a project like this before also.
A lot of firework in their past.
Yes, a lot of firework in their past. Yeah, and
I
so
think it was an excellent choice after.
and they have they have a lot of. Their heart is really here. I mean, there's a lot of the individuals that are looking for property to move here. So they've really kind of
Prices are so good.
They've kind of fallen in love with paradise, and they're not. They're looking to get through this project, and then they're looking to get onto another project through the recovery process of whatever's coming up next. So they've really enjoyed their time here so far. Residential fire flows, we continue to get those in, which is great because it just means more buildings coming. We're a little bit backlogged on that, but we're getting a better process so that not every time. A lot of the upfront work was done to kind of gather data so that if you come in with a fire flow on your street, we go out and test it. The next person that comes in with a fire flow on his street, we already have the data. So the more data we're collecting, the better we're going to be off, and these are going to become more streamlined. Trying to kind of cover the high points here. From my standpoint, lots of meetings. I've been attending quite a few. On Tuesday, we had a delegation of senators and staff in town, about approximately 40 individuals from different offices. One of their stops was PID, so I was able to give them a presentation of PID and what we've gone through. Michael had some show and tell out in the parking lot for them to see, so they got to see some burnt meters and what we're having to accomplish on that side. And then there was a lunch over at the town hall that I attended also that was able to kind of give them some perspectives of what we're trying to accomplish, but also of what we might be asking from them into the future. My end remarks were, don't forget about us, continue to listen to our needs and to support them. I mean, the delegation was from all over the state, so we had a lot of reds and blues in that, and so bipartisan support is always better than trying to get one of our great senators or assemblymen, but a lot of times they need that other side of the aisle to get things pushed through. So, so that was good. I was down in Sacramento and spoke to the Water Education Foundation on the topic of our emergency response, and that got a lot of press, and it seemed to be picked up by a lot of water publications. And we just continue moving forward. I like the one thing I think we're in is we're in a groove now, and I think that we're kind of moving forward in progress. I see that there's not a lot of changes in our philosophies anymore. We're really in a good spot going forward. It's just now trying to get the work accomplished. Sutton's been great to bring on board to get the service lines in, and then getting those the standing homes tested and get the potability. I think by the end of March we're going to be in a really good spot to really pick up the work ourselves and move it forward, continuing going forward.
He also had a comment about working with waterworks and inspectors and stuff, and he just complimented them. He said that they were amazing to work with.
Excellent. I would agree with him.
Apparently, that wasn't necessarily the case in Reading, but anyway.
Oh, really?
He was very impressed with
Excellent.
with our people.
Yeah. Waterworks has been great. They've continued to bring people on that are just step right into the team. Colleen is our construction manager on the project. She is on top of things. She knows what she's doing, and every time you call her, she's there to answer
He
questions.
called her by name, so that was
Yes. Sammy's been great on the presentation, and Michael has been a godsend up there in the field. He is there every morning at 6:30, getting his crew worked up and going, and making changes if necessary on getting more efficient in the field, and things have really been running smoothly. They have been, yeah.
Kevin, I heard you did a really excellent job with your presentation yesterday to the delegation that was here, so.
Oh,
I
excellent.
think it's great that you're able to speak to all of this in a way people understand
Yeah.
and represent the issues so effectively, so nice work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not going to jump on the intertie right now. We have that as one of our new business items. That's been taking up quite a bit of time. And I'll also talk about Miocene Canal and the coalition down there during that agenda item. Our spillway investigation, Gentera is still working with DSOD to get them over information from a site plan and a moving forward plan for our spillway. And they also will be out to inspect the dams for fire damage and for our annual dam inspection at the same time, coming up in the next couple months. From the long-term capital projects, water rights are going to continue to move forward. Dustin's been working with our water rights engineers to try to figure out what we need to do to get place of use in our permits and license moving forward. Magalia Dam, we have a hazard mitigation grant in for that, and we hope to see some monies maybe flowing forward on that. The replacement of the B reservoir is one that's coming to fruition at this point. So what we're looking for is to obviously not put the same type of reservoir back in. We're looking for hazard mitigation. It's mitigation monies from what they call PA. So it's 406 mitigation, which means you have a damaged infrastructure that you can then go to FEMA and say, we don't want to put the same infrastructure back because there's mitigation monies that should be put in so that it'll mitigate against a future disaster. So we want to put a steel tank back in, but we want to put 2 steel tanks in with that 406 money. So we are moving forward with that as our ask, which takes quite a bit of time. In the meantime, we are going to have to put in probably a temporary tank there. So Sammy put together a presentation for a temporary reservoir adjacent to the current B-res. And so there's a property that's adjacent to the B-res, which was a trailer park at one point before the fire, that's basically empty. And so we contacted the individual over there to see if she would be interested in leasing that property to us. and the conversation's still going, and that we would be putting in 23 temporary, basically like they look like long hauling trucks beds as temporary tanks that would be all interconnected. And so we're now pushing that through to FEMA to ask for FEMA to pay for an emergency temporary ask for that site for a temporary BRES for the next summer. So that's where we're at with that, which then helps us again with the mitigation monies, because you can take what it would cost to get temporary water in there based on that you're going to have a damaged infrastructure if this fire would happen again, that you're mitigating against having to put a temporary tank in there. That helps you with your cost-benefit analysis. So.
Interesting.
And then we have a A-zone pipeline still out there as a hazard mitigation grant with the generator upgrade. We're also looking for other opportunities to upgrade our generators through additional monies through the PSP. It's happening all the time, and now there's monies out there available to maybe get some generators in a little bit quicker, especially for us as a water district. And then our NPDES permit renewal is moving forward. We're in contact with the division, the water board in Reading, to get that moving starting June of this coming year. That's about it. Is there any questions for me other than we'll get to some of the new business down here?
Has Apton started? Have they?
Yeah, they're on board. They've been, they really have helped us with our hazard mitigation grants and our applications. They are a major pain in the butt. There's a lot of work to those hazard mitigation grants. And they've been able to help us kind of work through those. And it's a really short timeline to get the information in to them. So they've been doing, that's where a lot of their work has been going. And then we've submitted a damage description for our service line replacement project that Sammy and Aptum put together to submit to FEMA as a draft. And then we've asked for a sit-down meeting with FEMA to go over the draft. And then once we get that sit-down meeting, then we get the them to buy in on our philosophies of what is considered damage and the percentage of damage and what that entails. Then we'll cost out what it's going to cost to replace the damage. And then we're going to go forward with that 428 ask, which is that all the money be dropped up front, and then our crews would be able to do the work as the replacements come along. So Aptum's been helping on that. They're going to help with the BRES and putting that together. And the other project that is taking quite a bit of time is the meter replacement project. So we've pulled over 1,300 meters out of the ground. Over 25% have visual damage to them. And then we're going to go through and start inspecting them for internal damage. So the ones that don't have visual damage, we're going to look for internal damage so that we have a good percentage on that, so we can get a full replacement on the meter replacement project. And then we again, so you have insurance is covering the meters, but they only cover replacement cost. And so we have to put the meters as a FEMA claim so that we can upgrade those meters and get the upgrade paid for through the 406 hazard mitigation, which not only would include the brass meter, the concrete box, but the backflow. And then if we get that money, then that's where we would be then refunding the individuals for the backflows that they purchased earlier.
I'm good. My head hurts. Doesn't matter.
My head hurts.
Okay, so let's see, where are we at here? How about,
Number 5, Treasurer's Report. Ross.
All right. So as of the end of October, our cash position was up substantially. We did receive that state backfill funding this last month. So that was $7.3 million that we received. After revenues and expenses, it brought our cash position to right at $8.9 million. So definitely positive. From a debt service perspective, we had our latest Capital One payment of interest and principal. I believe it was $123,000, bringing our total debt service payments to $422,000. Our next service payments aren't until April and May 1st of next year. Continuing to process requests for permanent disconnections. We processed 84 of those requests this last month, bringing our total to just under 2,000 customers that have permanently disconnected.
Was that slowing a bit then?
Yeah, it is. So it was at about like 150, 120 range over the past few months. So it is starting to drop a little bit. And then on top of that, with the people that are returned to potable service, their charges are increased. So it's starting to offset a little bit.
There are still people that are going, you're charging me for water? That have had no idea that we have been charging this whole time. And so we still get calls from those individuals, but a lot of those individuals, we've received their payment through their property taxes. So, well, we disconnect them, but we've still received their monies for the last 12 months.
Yeah. Through the end of last fiscal year.
Right.
Yeah.
Get any input from these people that are disconnecting? Do they talk about why, reasons? And
I think it's a lot of it. People are just moving out of the area. They're not wanting to do much with their property. That's most of what I've been
government or
hearing.
whatever.
Yeah.
And people are finally, there's certain people that are finally making decisions, that they're not going to return, so therefore they're
Not going to pay.
they're just done. Yeah.
And they figure in escrow when they sell the property that they'll just build the $500 reconnection fee into it.
Yep, exactly.
Continuing to process those interim water supply installations. So we're up to, as Kevin mentioned, about 1,300 total requests. We've actually collected $427,000 just this fiscal year in fees related to those. Residential fire flow testing, we're up to 380 of those requests, which has brought in about $33,000 in fees this year.
You say current fiscal year, so
Yeah.
18-19, we've
Yep.
already collected 427.
Yeah, and so there was quite a few that was processed last fiscal year as well. So it's substantial revenue that we're bringing in from those, and we're continuing to see them. We had 157 this month, and that's about what we've seen in the past as well. So they're continuing to come in at a pretty steady rate.
It's a pretty substantial cost, though, too. So
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah, those are all
we're
just
doing
back
it at cost, so.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
yeah, AFWD though is those guys are the master backflow builders. I can tell you that right now. It's amazing to go up there and watch them. It's an assembly line. They know how to they test them. They look at them for quality control. They're stacked up there, just all built beautifully. So kudos to those guys up there.
Very good.
Let's see. As Kevin mentioned, continuing to work with State of California, FEMA, and insurance to fund the recovery, and total expenditures are still within our budgeted expectations for this fiscal year.
It was exciting to see we got our first backflow or backfill of state revenue.
Yes. Yeah.
That was
That's
a
so
good day.
nice to see
Did you
that.
hand carry that check?
Well, it was a wire, so it's direct.
I
but
know.
yeah, I was like,
Great.
Thank you.
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you, Governor.
One thing I did want to point
Legislative.
out, if we can go to page, was it 20?
That one.
Yeah. So this is our service charge water revenue, the collections there. I brought it up last meeting that it's kind of budgeted at a steady rate that we're going to collect about $191,000. But what we're actually seeing is that in the months that we bill, it's quite a bit lower, and then we collect those fees in the following month since it's bi-monthly billing. So we actually saw that the actual collections on that were above budgeted expectations this month. Since we billed last month, we had a higher collection rate on those. So total actual, as you can see here, was $804,000. Budgeted year to date is $765,000. So we're actually at about $39,000 over our budget expectation on that.
That's a good issue.
Yeah.
Good to be conservative.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think that's about all I have. If you guys have any questions, I can take those on the treasurer's report.
Okay. We have a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Anyone else?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Expense approval report. Number 6, approval of checks. Any questions on the checks?
Yeah, nothing specific I wanted to point out here. I can answer any questions you guys have on any of the checks, though, that's gone out this month.
I know if Director Kellogg was here, he would be asking the question, so I'll ask it for him.
Okay.
Very good.
Just confirming that all of the water testing is a reimbursable FEMA cost.
Yeah.
That's the big
absolutely.
standout, right? That's
Right.
other than the contract we have with Waterworks. So I just wanted to confirm, so if anyone's asking or curious, they know.
That's for you, Bill.
That's right.
Do you want to talk
You're
about
here in spirit, Bill.
Have we got that
That's
obligated?
right.
Not yet, but I can. So that project for the water sampling, we're very close working with FEMA to getting those funds obligated. So we've completed our costs through the end of last fiscal year. So as of June 30th, they have all the supporting documentation for all those sampling costs. And then I've created a cost estimate through the 1 year mark, so November 12th, that we've submitted to FEMA that they're really close to submitting to like final processing.
Great.
So we're expecting in the next couple of months those funds will be obligated so that we can start drawing down on those costs and hopefully get some money flowing in for that.
That's wonderful.
Notice we had a pretty big check to Normac this go around this month. That's all reimbursable, right? It's all.
With that's the backflows.
Yeah, so the majority of that is the backflow.
Okay, that is
so,
the backflow.
Yeah, we're hoping those will be reimbursable
Yeah.
at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But they are being reimbursed through the revenue generation of the sale of those.
Okay. Oh, I see.
So the
Okay,
customer's
so as-
paying for that expense.
Okay, got it. So that gets, okay, good.
Do you see a motion?
Anything else? Dan?
Anything else, Dan? I'll make a motion to approve the expense report.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Committee reports. Greg and I were at a meeting on Monday for the Paradise Lake Committee. So, Greg, did you want to? I was late, so Greg gets the
I'll throw in a little.
first 15 minutes. You get.
Yeah, the first thing of it is that Paradise Recreation seems to be very excited about the prospect of taking over the lake. There was some discussion about the member of understanding that it's going to go to a lease as opposed to a member of understanding for more flexibility of making changes to it later. We did discuss some of the Director Kellogg's concerns to make sure that they were included in the lease and how they were going to make sure that the property is well observed as opposed to security. There was comments about already people seeing trucks up there with Parks and Rec logos on them and people reacting to the authority of them. So it was a very good meeting, and like I said, they're very excited, and I think we still haven't got the lease back, right?
Yeah, I'll cover that in
Okay.
9A.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a real good meeting as well, and a lot of good discussion. And Dan Esef was there, the manager of Paradise Rec, so that was really good. He could comment on any questions we had, so it's good.
And he got a new assistant director. Yeah, I'm sorry, her name escaped me.
I don't remember it either. Yes.
So she seems to be very excited to be about with her new position. So.
Yeah. Great. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a great partnership, that just on all appearances. So. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Okay, we'll go to there's no unfinished business. We'll move to new business.
Yeah, and we have not got I'll just give you a backstory. So myself and Emily and Dan and their attorney, Jeff Carter, all met in the same room to discuss all of the issues with turning over the recreation over to Parks and Rec, which was good because the attorneys have a lot more insight in some of these nuances that I don't think about. The biggest one was insurance and liability associated with the park, and which I think is well covered in the drafted lease. So Jeff Carter from Parks and Rec drafted the draft lease, and then we have now it's with Emily. So Emily has not reviewed it yet, or she's started to review it but hasn't got through the review process. So that's why it's not on. It's kind of, we're going to have to table it on the agenda, but I wanted to kind of give you a backstory of where we were. So Parks and Rec and ourselves thought it would be better to go with a lease agreement than it would be a MOU. And Director Mowers was right. It gives us more flexibility to make amendments to the lease than it is to try to recreate an MOU or to go through and amend the MOU. It also has coverage in there in the lease agreement that you will take all responsibility for liability coverage for any improvements that are necessary to the facilities over there. And so they take all of the responsibility for all the maintenance and the upgrade of the facilities and to return it, if there ever was a return, back to the same condition that it was when the lease was originally started. So that would be leasehold improvements and all of that. The one hiccup that we ran into was that the property where the picnic area and the gazebo is U.S. Forest Service. And so I was able to get in touch with the U.S. Forest Service. We do have a use permit. The use permit does not allow assignability to the use permit. It's strictly only for us. And so luckily it's managed out of the Oroville office. So it's Plumas National Forest in Oroville that manages the use agreement. We are able to contact the lady there. She gave us good information that Parks and Rec can apply for a new use agreement and basically copy our use agreement. So there's going to be no changes to our use agreement, which is going to be an issue for them if they want to expand their recreation, because the use agreement actually has specified recreation uses of their property. I talked to Dan about that, and he is fine with that because you can make amendments to the use agreement after you get your original use agreement. So our thought is to transition it as is. The other things that were brought up in the so back to that. So they have an application that they're going to be filling out. We're then going to get rid of our use permit. It'll be their use permit, and if they ever decide to leave, then the use permit would then be dissolved. Their use permit would be dissolved, and we would apply for the use permit at the same.
So it doesn't create any type of possibility where we could get the lake back and they could still have that area.
No, not in the recreation side of things. But we're not giving up control over the dam, or
No, I just meant that Forest Service land. I mean, is it going to be written that they will give it up if they ever lose the lease?
that on the use permit, there's no assignability to it. So it would have to be a new use permit that we would take on.
Okay.
And I just don't see a lot of risk associated with it at this point in time. The other thing that was brought up was any type of changes that Parks and Rec would like to do would be required to be approved by the board. So
By our board.
yes, yeah. So if they wanted to go do a whole new trail system, it would have to be approved by our board. If they want to change fees, it would have to be approved by the board. If they want to allow swimming, it would have to be approved by our board. So any changes then of what we currently do would have to be approved by the board, and that there would be a committee set up or some type of way to communicate how they're doing, what they're doing, how things are going out there, any concerns, anything like that. We would have full accessibility to inspect, to be on the property at any time, and those type of things. The thought of security, we're trying to kind of not use that terminology so much of security, but more of maintenance and just being present on the facility. Because if you offer some type of implied security or lifeguard, then you open yourself up to kind of more liability. If you have a reservoir and you're a public agency, you actually are exempt from like liability associated with drowning, right? But if there's an implied sense of security or a lifeguard there, then you could assume that liability. So we're talking about a presence, patrolling. Bill was here to offer his concerns from a treatment plan standpoint. We brought up swimming, and from his standpoint, he doesn't see an issue with it from a treatment standpoint. And from a security standpoint, he feels there's more risk below the dam than there is in the lake itself, which we will have a patrol. Our patrol would patrol that anyway. Parks and Rec wouldn't patrol that portion of the reservoir anyway. So, and we do patrol that on a regular basis.
Like for grows or something.
Or we have that intake that's down there that, so you just don't have as much. So worst case scenario, right? A truck drives into the lake and you have gasoline, right? The dilution of that is going to be tremendous before it even gets into the creek. Where if you have a truck that drives into the creek right before our intake, you have less dilution. So there's more risk associated with the smaller bodies of water that is going into our treatment plant. So that's where that lease is at this point. My feelings are, if it's good with the board, is when Emily does get through it and it does get through all the attorneys, I'd like to bring it to the board for probably a special board meeting to go over the draft of it, to make sure that there's any changes that the board sees that they would like included in that, to then be approved at the December board meeting so that we can have a transition to Parks and Rec January 1st.
I'm good.
Okay.
And that was you're looking at a 20-year lease, right, term?
That's correct. It was a 20-year lease with an option to terminate on either side with 120 days notice.
Right.
And is there automatic renewals periods going to be included?
I didn't see an automatic renew after the 20-year period. We can put that in there. Huh?
I do.
Becomes a month to month after the 20 years.
That's what I was trying to
Month to month, okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Kevin. Okay.
Yep.
How about continuing on with B here?
So this is a discussion item on this one. This has been an interesting kind of roller coaster. Never did I expect the feasibility study to become what it has become from a political standpoint. So we have the MOU with the county and with Cal Water. The county was the one that was administrating the feasibility study with West Yost. We have a contract. We had a contract with them. The county did to perform the feasibility study. We were 2 months into the feasibility study when the board decided to change their mind and not fund the feasibility study portion of the feasibility study. So at this point, the contractor is no longer working on it. We were able to give them documents, and they have gotten a little bit of work done, and they're buttoning it up, and then they're going to just distribute that their work out to myself, to Cal Water, and to the county. The project's not dead, though, just because we're in this position. The county is going to have a water workshop on the 17th of December that I will attend. On the 13th or 12th of December, I'm giving a tour to Supervisor Lucero and Supervisor Ritter so that they understand our watershed, what our system is and how it works, and so that they get a good visual understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. The other 3 supervisors are on board at this point. So I think if we can get their thumbs up, I think that we can continue moving this forward. There was a lot of concern that the scope of work was not broad enough. We tried to let them know that it was just a feasibility study looking from a 30,000-foot view, that a lot of the questions they have would either be answered through the feasibility study or would be a separate study after we even figure out if it's feasible to run this pipeline down there. There was a lot of confusion on who would pay for it. Again, it was a feasibility study to figure out who would pay for it. But the initial concept from PID's standpoint was that Cal Water Chico would be accepting the water and that we would be running the cost associated with that through the county that then would be pushing that cost onto the Vina Subbasin, who would be getting the benefits of that. There was also a lot of questions and concerns from citizens up here about us giving away our water rights and never being able to get them back, which was never the concept at this point. There was going to be a look at moving water within the county into our watershed to be able to backfill when PID customers needed that water back here, to be able to backfill that to continue moving that water down to the valley. Again, that would be an additional study. This was just to look at the cost associated with it. After that, we have had multiple meetings. I've met with Assembly Gallagher in his office directly, and he's looking for funds outside of the county to pay for the feasibility study. We have support from multiple legislators out there to kind of move this thing forward. There's going to be some legislative bills that are going to be in favor of this to try to streamline the process associated with the pipeline project if it's feasible. And then we have support from both labor groups to move this project forward too, that are going to help us move it through the legislative process. So there's been a lot of outreach moving forward on this. The one thing that we are trying to gather is that it's education, right? It's education to everybody in the county of what we're trying to accomplish, but also what position we're put in here at PID and how we're trying to accomplish those goals through looking outside of our business model. And one of the individuals, or not one of the individuals, one of the groups that was a little concerned about our project too was the Miocene Canal Coalition. So I've reached out to them to try to bring them on board, and now they are supporting us. They're looking to become a supporter of PID to see if we could be a solution to their problem down there also. We're interested in being kind of the keystone of the water delivery to the county. If we can get it into our watershed, everything feeds downhill from there. And then we're also interested in talking with PG&E about their assets if their negotiations with Toll House ever falls apart, which we're thinking is kind of looming. And so to be able to kind of gather those assets also to kind of, again, spread our business model. So that's where we're at with the Intertie project. Any questions?
Thank you, Kevin. I just have a comment. For me, it's a lesson learned. And anytime we have a project, I think that in the future that's going outside our boundaries, our district boundaries, we're going to have to get out in front of it big time. And so, now we're doing, I'm not going to call it damage control, but we're having to try to educate people in arrears, and we want to be out in front of things. That's how you get a successful project. So,
yeah, and just a reminder of how this project kind of gathered steam was through the backfill process. That the state, when the only way we were able to get backfill funding from the state was to come up with a project that was going to sustain the district through the rebuild process. This was our project. We talked to the county about it. So the one thing is it wasn't like we were hidden about the project. It's just that we weren't out in front of the media on the project. We met with county staff probably 5 times. We met with Gallagher's office. We met with Nielsen's office. We met with even LaMalfa was in the room during the discussion. We met with City of Chico was in there. We had roomfuls of individuals in there discussing this project. So there was a lot of education, but it wasn't. It was more with the players instead of the outside groups. And so I agree. I think there's lessons learned there to reach out to those outside groups to maybe hopefully educate them.
Get them on
and-
board.
Yeah, and get them on board early on.
But thank you. I'm not criticizing. I'm
Oh, I
just
know,
saying
I
that
know.
it's educational.
It is.
Thank you. Anything else? Any comments? Okay, let's go to C, D commercial property.
So I'm just looking for direction from the board on the, it's the Red Wagon, which is the red building up here. You have the email from Jennifer Chavez that she is no longer going to be occupying the building after I believe it's December 1st. Yeah. So I think we have kind of two options on that building. We can go out and get a property manager to come in and give us a price. I have no idea what going rate of real estate and for rental. There you go. for commercial
Might
real
know
estate
someone.
is, and to set a price. Right now, we were charging $500 a month for a lease. I do believe that's undervalued.
What's the square footage of it?
Good question. 1,200? Is it 1,200?
That's about right.
Yeah, it's about 1,200 square feet.
It probably is slightly overvalued.
Especially
The other
now.
option is to look to sell it. I don't know what kind of market is out there for commercial real estate, but I know
Holding
there's.
my tongue because I was criticizing somebody else on another group that was a real estate agent that was using his position to promote his business.
So we can go down either path, but I want a direction from the board before I move forward with either one to see if we wanted to test the market on selling it, or do we want to keep it as a rental at this point. Maintenance wise, it's fairly inexpensive. I know the Red Wagon did a lot of tenant improvements in there,
Yeah.
and
It was painted a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's really nice in there. It's not a bad location for a commercial real estate.
Do we have any concerns about a neighbor, picking the neighbor? I mean, as far as noise or anything like that, we've never had any issues with any tenants.
Nope, none.
So what if we bring it back with the information that you just brought up? What would it go for fair market rent, and what potentially is the commercial market? Like, I know we recently saw a report of the residential market, and it seems to have slowed a little in town from where it was.
The residential's naturally in a slow right now anyway.
Because of the winter?
Because of the seasons. So it's very common for that. But there's few residential on the market. I think yesterday it was 47 residential properties on the market. So it's kind of hit its lull. But as far as the commercial goes, there's not a lot of commercial on the market that's truly for sale. There's people out there that are reaching for the stars and hoping that one of these agencies will come in and pay way too much money so they can park their trucks there for the next year or 2 years or whatever. Office space there's not a ton of it that's reasonable. So the market would be maybe some of these contractors that are looking for a home base to work out of or something like that. So either or works. It just depends on whether you want to continue to be a landlord or you want to continue to be or release it and not be a landlord. If the costs are minimal in maintaining it, and in a good triple net lease, you shouldn't be costing anything to maintain it. It should be all on the tenant. So.
And it really didn't cost us much.
No, we did the AC unit and heater and
And it's
roof.
just been post-fire rehabbed, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's,
It's in tip-top
Good
shape.
to go.
Cleaned out.
except for tenant improvements or
I'll bring back estimates on lease price and estimates on sale price.
And what it costs annually to maintain it, like insurance costs, I would be curious,
Okay.
just our historical,
Yep.
so we can have the whole picture.
Sure.
How big is that property?
It's a third of an acre, I think.
That's not, I don't think it's quite a half, if I remember right.
I don't think
That's a
it is.
separate parcel?
Yeah.
Okay. But with that parcel and the house next door, kind of makes this integral. In other words, I kind of like keeping the parcels because it makes PID kind of a whole
Yeah, we own
chunk right there, the whole block, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
But I mean, that's just my thinking for the future,
Yeah, absolutely.
the future of the
I'll
district.
put Ross on it, and he'll get those numbers back, and then we'll make a decision.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to,
Yep. Play assistant program. I'm not going to get into the details, but I was going to bring back where we're at. So we were able to bring in a individual from EAP. The individual gave a group talk to all PID employees, and then was able to sit in the conference room and have individual appointments made for those for whoever wanted them. I know we had at least 4 individuals that went in and had a conversation. The debrief from the counselor was that she's going to come back on the 3rd, and we're going to have this occur, I believe, 5 additional times. So I think we get 5 additional times. And one of the thoughts was a relaxation room for the employees just to sit and have relaxation. Why she, I hate to say hypnotizes, but relaxes them with some soothing conversation, and she felt like they were very tense. So all in all, everybody was very happy, and it was successful, and we're going to continue it.
So can I make a suggestion that at least 1 or 2 of those are off-site someplace?
We can do that, and
So that the employees don't feel like they're being watched. What are you, who's going there? So a little more privacy.
yeah, we were going to talk to Parks and Rec about having a room over there
That's a good idea.
to allow them to be able to just travel over there and have it. So yeah, we were going to make that as one of the going forwards, is having an off-site time.
that's great.
I'm happy.
Good. We also, just to let you
Turn
know,
you guys into social workers?
we opened it
Pack
up
a bag.
we opened it up for our contractors and for AFWD workers.
Oh,
also.
that's great.
Yeah, so
Oh, great, wow.
everybody was able to come and use the time if they wanted it.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's really important for self-wellness and self-healing.
Yeah.
And to learn techniques. And it sounds like that's where she's headed.
She is.
Where, you don't necessarily need to go do talk therapy, but if you can be in touch with your stress response.
Yes. And
It's
that's where she
really-
nailed it.
Yeah.
That's exactly where she put.
It's not
she
about
hit it.
being touchy-feely.
Yeah.
It's about how do you understand your body. When you're starting to feel like you're having a panic attack, how can you
Mm-hmm.
center yourself? There's very tangible techniques that people could really benefit from.
I just learned one the other day. So it was counting. So you can get the person to start counting.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's whatever
Changes the way the
methodology.
brain-
Yeah, it gets their brain on trying to remember what the next number is or whatever. And it's, it was like 2 or 3 days ago.
You tried it?
That method. No, I just heard about it.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
but it was interesting.
I'll have to use that at the front counter one of these days when someone's ready to blow their stuff.
Tell them to go back.
They'll ask, what are you doing? We're counting.
Exactly.
Start counting from 20 backwards.
That's right. Exactly.
Great
great,
de-escalation technique.
That's
I
great,
try to
great.
count
Thank
before
you.
I open my mouth. Doesn't always work, but
Well, thanks for following through on that, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for bringing it up. And trust me, I am open to any suggestions the board has. I am not perfect. I will never say I am. And things get busy, and I definitely am hyper-focused sometimes on certain things, and I need to be refocused, and I appreciate you bringing it up and everybody here. So, absolutely. See any defects, bring it to my attention.
Very good. Okay, how about E, letter of merit rejection?
So this claim is different than the one we brought before the board earlier in the year. And the claimant called in May and mentioned a representative that came out to the house. I read that. But we are never, they mentioned that PID went to the wrong service address. And so we checked records and we don't have any service order for any properties nearby. But we have some additional questions after speaking with Aqua JPIA that we need to present to Jim Ladrini and get additional answers like, you know, was it after hours call perhaps? I'm not sure. He mentioned he checked records in detail. I'm not sure. You know, we want to get clarification on that. And, you know, what was done when the call came in on May 21st from the claimants. Just get a little more confirmation. The other thing that Aqua JJ wanted to claim to confirm was where the claimant's not living at the house at the time due to the fire. So we're gonna get some more information. They're not, it's just the board has to formally reject the claim so that Aqua JPIA can handle it. And so they'll work with Jim and get some more information from the staff. And they'll also contact the claimant and get additional information.
So it's a procedure.
So it's a procedure.
It's a procedure through Aqua JPA
You have to
that,
reject.
yeah, you have to formally reject. The
Even
claim.
though it could, after further investigation, it could be found potentially that there's liability on our side.
And that's how, and then Aqua JPA would pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but Aqua JPA completes the investigation based on the rejection of the claim?
With our assistance.
Okay.
So I'm going to move to reject the claim for water damages recorded as ACWA JPIA claim number 20-0359 and approve the letter of merit rejection for submittal to ACWA Joint Powers Insurance Authority to process and respond to this claim.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. All right. Director's comments. Shelby, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
I don't think so.
Great.
Well, I said that, but just one question, kind of going backward. If Emily was here, her mind would. When the date is going to get confirmed for the event for awards, I assume Georgiana will let us know.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
We're looking for venues right now, maybe off-site venue, in town but off-site, and then we're working on trying to get somebody to cater it.
Is there anything on the time?
It just mattered if it was on the 13th. I had to go
Oh,
earlier.
okay.
TBA.
To be determined.
Thank you. Shelby. Greg, anything?
Really nothing. I kind of said my piece earlier about protocols for respecting each other when we're talking, based on some other activities, and I think the board everybody on the board believes the same thing, that everybody has the right to their opinion, and we need to respect each other for that. So.
Great. Thank you.
Far from like-minded, but all heading in the same direction.
We all got different backgrounds and different educations, and we're all going to come from different angles, and that's why you have a board, right? So
Great. You're right. Yeah.
I'm good.
I don't have any comments other than to thank Dan, our audience member. Thank you, Dan, for attending. All right, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
We don't have this close session.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have another closed session. That's correct. I forgot about that.
We unadjourned the meeting.
We have another one. It's going to be quick.
Are they calling in though?
No, I'm going to handle it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so will adjourn the meeting and then
It's not proper
reconvene, but
protocol,
we're
it's just
adjourning
have
for
it
closed session, conference with labor negotiators, California Government Code, Section 54957.6, agency designated representative Emily Lameau, negotiations with Teamsters Local 137.